The Empire of Business, Section 17. Individualism versus Socialism. The alacrity displayed by socialists in pasting their labels upon the products of individualism is surprising, in view of the fact that many of the measures claimed as socialistic have long been in operation in English-speaking lands. Mr. Snowden, for instance, gives what he claims to be the socialists' ideas of taxation. 1. Both local and national taxation should aim primarily at securing for the communal benefit all unearned or social increment of wealth. 2. Taxation should aim deliberately at preventing the retention of large incomes and great fortunes in private hands, recognizing that the few cannot be rich without making the many poor. 3. Taxation should be in proportion to ability to pay and to protection and benefit conferred by the state. 4. No taxation should be imposed which encroaches upon the individual's means to satisfy his physical needs. He is quite entitled to number 1. No one but a socialist would dream of taxing with a view of securing all unearned or social increment of wealth for communism. As to number 2, graduated taxation in Britain is an attempt to equalize the present unfair distribution of wealth, and is already at work in the death duties and in the difference in the income tax between earned and unearned wealth, both the work of individualism. The strong and repeated recommendations of this policy by President Roosevelt are soon to bear fruit in the United States. He and his trusted advisers are individualistic to the core. The non-taxation of imported food by Britain under individualism, as far as it has gone, is in accordance therewith. Number 4 is another application of Adam Smith's doctrine. Until physical needs of individual and family are provided for, there is no ability to pay taxes. Thus, 3 of these ideas are the product of individualism and should bear its hallmark, not the socialist label. Mr. Jowett pastes the socialistic label upon the proper rating of site values, as if this did not prevail under individualism throughout our English-speaking race, except in the old home. Mr. MacDonald, regarded as the most philosophical of current socialistic writers, while indulging in dreams of a far distant future, naturally restricts action in our day to practical measures. There is only to be a steady readjustment of existing relations under the organic structure has been completely changed. He lays down as ripe for action the 7 points in the Independent Labour Party programme, which he says is far and away the most representative socialist body in Britain, thus stamping the socialistic label upon all these points. First in these comes an 8-hour day. One naturally inquires under what system the hours of labor have been reduced from 12 and more to 10 hours or less. Long before socialism attracted the public, the reduction of the excessive hours of labor was the care of progressive men under the present individualistic system in all English-speaking countries. Whether these can be wisely reduced still further is under consideration. To put the socialistic label upon the policy of shortening the hours of labor is as flat burglary as ever was committed. Second comes a workable unemployed act. Mark the adjective. The attention of the English Parliament was given last year to this very question. It is a difficult task to meet without doing more injury than good. When or if a workable act is produced, parties will then take their positions. Third, old age pensions. Mr. MacDonald is here a day behind the fair. These have been established in Britain before this appears in print, both political parties being favourable. Socialism will have little right to label old age pensions as its product. On the contrary, it is the product of the best elements of both political non-socialistic parties. Number 4 is the abolition of indirect taxation and the gradual transference of all public burdens to unearned incomes. Here we must read the bracketed words in the light of Mr. MacDonald's philosophy. This is a consummation which cannot be reached until the organic structure has been completely changed. As far as the doctrine of lessening indirect taxation is concerned, it has been in practice since the repeal of the Corn Laws gave free food for the people. It is a wise policy. In America there are no duties of moment, except such as bear upon the rich, who alone use imported articles, a protective tax recently imposed upon sugar to test the ability of the country to produce its own supply being the only exception. Number 5 is a series of land acts aimed at the ultimate nationalization of the land. See note to number 4 as the words bracketed. Britain needs a series of land acts to bring her where all other English-speaking lands stand. None have primogeniture or settlements. All rate sites at market prices. Land is everywhere free except in Britain, and this has long been the case under individualism. Socialism has no right to the label of free land, except as applicable to Britain, and even here a large number of non-socialists have long urged the policy. 6th, nationalization of railways and mines. As far as railways are concerned, individualism has preceded socialism in this department. Many countries own their railways. India, under British control, does, as do some of the colonies. So do Austria, France, Germany, Switzerland, etc. Mines are precarious properties and should be leased upon royalties when owned by the state. In some cases, this is already done. 7th, democratic political reforms. This is so indefinite that nothing can be said upon the subject. The reforms are in supposition so far, and must be judged upon their merits when announced from time to time. In all English-speaking lands under individualism, democratic reforms have long been the order of the day, never more so than now. Mr. Hardy claims there is perfect agreement among socialists on 2 leading points, the first being hostility to militarism in all its forms, and to war as a method of settling disputes between nations. Such of us as have inherited this doctrine under individualism and proclaimed it all our lives rejoice that any body of men agree with us, but we of the peace and arbitration societies in every English-speaking land who have upheld the doctrine respectfully protest against the socialist use of a label to which the individualistic men of peace have prior claim. Opposition to war and support of arbitration have developed under present conditions and grow stronger with leaps and bounds these days, and are soon to triumph. One great victory is seen in Chile and Argentina ceasing to wage war and agreeing to settle disputed boundaries peacefully. They did so, and both conquered. There now stands upon the highest peak of their boundary line a statue of Christ as Prince of Peace, cast from their discarded cannon. The pedestal bears this inscription: "Sooner shall these mountains crumble to dust than Chileans and Argentines shall break the peace, which at the foot of Christ the Redeemer they have sworn to maintain." Socialism has no place in these lands. Scarcely a week passes without one or more treaties of arbitration between nations being entered into. All the nations assembled last year for the first time at the Hague Peace Conference and voted for obligatory arbitration, only 8 dissenting, and these declaring they would make separate treaties with selected nations. Some such have already been made, and others are now under consideration. All this progress in the path of peace among nations has been made under our present system, and socialism as such has no exclusive right to place its label upon the triumphs of peaceful arbitration. Members of all parties have cooperated in this, the most pressing duty of our day, the banishment from the civilized world of the crime of crimes, the killing of men by men in battle like wild beasts, as a mode of settling international disputes. As we see, there is much that evolutionary socialists advocate and claim to be socialistic, which we progressives have long welcomed. The municipalization of certain public utilities is undoubtedly a step in the right direction, but this has already been done in our present system before socialism was much talked about. It has been proved that cities can advantageously own, in some cases operate, and in other cases lease for periods, their public utilities, water, gas and electric works, street railways, etc., and that they can purchase and improve land to advantage in certain districts, and could do much more in that line in Britain, where the laws like those of America and other English-speaking nations. We have, perhaps, one of the best examples of this beneficent policy in the city of New York, now containing more than 4 millions of people. It never parted with its riparian rights, and owns these around the island, giving it more than 20 miles of waterfront. Some years ago, it began building docks, issuing bonds therefore, with a sinking fund for their redemption. The rentals obtained for the docks meet the interest and sinking fund, and leave a profit so great that it is estimated the city will possess the gigantic property free of cost before the bonds mature. The city is contracting for rapid transit subways, the building and operating contractors agreeing to pay the interest and sinking fund and hand over the subways to the city free of cost at the end of 50 years. No franchises will hereafter be bestowed by New York City, except for stated periods. It is becoming the general policy of cities in America to avoid giving perpetual leases. Municipalization to this extent is steadily winning its way. The water supply is another instance. The foresight of New York has secured at comparatively small cost, because taken in time, 100 gallons per head daily for 8 millions of people. The city owns all this supply, furnishing a great contrast to London. It also secured years ago, at small cost, 7,000 acres of land admirably adapted for city parks, which are now being rapidly utilized as population spreads around them. The cooperative movement, wholesale and retail, in which manufacturing begins to make its appearance, is another development upon which the socialistic label is often put, but cooperation was adopted many years ago. The members thus get control to some extent in one branch of the means of production and distribution. In this field there is desirable progress, but we note in all that has been done so far in this direction the parting of the ways between individualism and socialism. The latter has as its aim a state in which every man renders service according to his ability and receives according to his needs. The needs of men in the main are common. Among 100 men thrown upon an island, there would be found little difference. All could be treated alike. This would be pure socialism, but in working municipal tramways, gas and waterworks, and in the management of cooperative societies, the compensation paid has no reference to common needs. It is paid according to the value of service rendered, the essence of individualism. The superintendent of the factory, the merchant in charge of the cooperative store, the employees down through the whole list are paid exactly upon the same basis as in all private agencies of production. There is not a trace of socialism here. In this vast field of progress all remains individualistic. Socialism versus individualism is the race between the hare and the tortoise over again. Individualism, the tortoise, has found and kept the path upon which it has made, and is making steady progress upward. Never has the tortoise had to stop long in its ascent, but, always carefully putting out its limbs, intuitively the steadily moving creature finds and treads the way onward and upward, moving neither to the right nor left, until certain it is right, and then steadily pushing forward. The hare has not yet made a start. It remains just where it was years ago, frisking around a circle. It knows where it wishes to end, tells us that clearly, but not how, when, or where it is to begin. One point it has settled, however. It will not tread the tortoise path of individualism, nor any path but that which our prehistoric ancestors trod many thousands of years ago, and which their progeny abandoned after years of trial and failure. The frisky hare today insists upon opening up again this abandoned path, and keeps scratching the earth and raising a dust, as if it were preparing to start, but there is no saying whether it will do so in our generation. Meanwhile, the tortoise, as we see, continues unceasingly upward, that which is better than that which has been, and that which is to come better than that which is. Lovers of progress cannot but hail its ascent as leading to the light. Foolish indeed would labor be to retard the advance until the hare has given some evidence of ability at least to start, and demonstrate by experiment that it can overtake and distance its rival. President Lincoln, when asked where General Sherman was going with his army in the march through Georgia, replied, "I know where he went in, but I don't believe the general himself knows where he is going to come out." Socialism is in that position. Let the socialist produce one enterprise managed upon socialistic principles as proclaimed, to put an end forever to the wage system, to sweep away all distinctions of class. The complete emancipation of labor from the domination of capitalism and landlordism, with the establishment of social and economic equality between the sexes. So far as experiments with these doctrines have been attempted, as Hepworth-Dixon informs us, they have failed. There have been some attempts to live together by small parties of mature age, seeking a retreat from active life. These ventures lay in the eddies out of the rushing current of human existence, their members striving to content themselves with the present, while the part which active men have to play on earth is that of improving conditions in every direction, making new discoveries, inventing new machines and processes, and extending the boundaries of knowledge. This is man's life work on earth, one of development toward the more perfect day. Nothing yet finished, but all growing better through his strenuous exertions. Rest and be thankful is for another existence. Until socialists can point to successful communities based upon their principles fulfilling this mission of progress, the socialistic question is not within range of consideration. All is mere speculation, vain imaginings of a supposed heaven upon earth, as illusory as other dreams. All that is desirable and even possible as man exists today is being accomplished. Too slowly, we agree, much too slowly, but in no small measure realized from generation to generation under the present system, which always has been and is being now and always must be steadily modified and improved as man correspondingly advances, and is himself modified and improved, but not otherwise. Man and his conditions must march abreast, acting and reacting upon each other, that improvement may be evolved. This is the law of his being. In considering the wisdom of change from our present individualistic to the proposed socialistic system, our first inquiry should be, how has the former resulted? Has the human race marched backward and deteriorated, or has it advanced and improved? If the former, we should welcome a promising change, and give it a trial tentatively upon a moderate scale. If the latter, common sense prompts us to refuse to make any revolutionary change, and to continue in the path upon which we have marched, and are still marching steadily upward, always pushing hard, that the pace may be hastened. We find that from the dawn of history until now, man, overcoming temporary interruptions, has steadily developed, making great progress in every field. Contrast his condition at various periods in the past with the present, and we have one unbroken record of improvement, morally, intellectually, and physically. Infant mortality is very much less, the death rate has fallen, the average of life has lengthened. Pestilences which swept away our progenitors are today unknown. Many diseases, once uncontrollable, are now conquered. The homes of the people have improved, and the poor are now taken care of. The food and clothing of the people are better, hours of labor less, wages much higher. Free education leaves no child in ignorance. Illiteracy is almost unknown. Carlyle only ventured to imagine a future when every considerable town would have a collection of books. Now they have free public libraries. Even the prisons have been improved. Sentences for crime have been lightened. Man has become more law-abiding and better behaved. There is less intemperance, and crime is less frequent. In every domain the comforts of life have been increased, its miseries mitigated. The masses of the people are better housed, better fed, better clothed, better educated, and better paid than ever before, and the sums in the savings banks were never so great. In the field of labor, man has risen from serfdom and controls his labor as an equal with his employer, and in our own day is beginning to rise from workman to partner. Labor unions, cooperative stores, friendly societies, and pension funds have all been developed. In all English-speaking lands, the rule of the people prevails. Only in Britain is hereditary privilege allowed to exist and obstruct their rule. Every public office is open to ability. Power is now in the hands of the masses, wherever the English language is spoken. Never have the masses made such rapid and substantial progress as in recent years, and never were there within their reach in Britain so many far-reaching improvements in the laws, which when adopted will ensure to the masses the advantages already possessed by their own race in other English-speaking lands. The various sections of progressive men have only to unite in the effort to free the old home from all in its laws that keep it in contrast to Canada, Australia, and America as governments of the people, for the people, and by the people. It is under such encouraging conditions that the socialist appears and distracts the masses, insisting upon discarding the system under which this triumphal march has been made, the only system in all the world's long history under which man has greatly advanced. That the organic structure can be completely altered in our day, even if desired, is impossible. That the alternative socialistic scheme proposed can be established is equally so, because it first requires a change in human nature, a change quite as great as that involved in the evolution of the man-ape into the savage, of the savage into civilized man. It is not the success of the Presto Change campaign, therefore, that is to be feared, nor even the attempt to establish the socialistic state, because neither is possible as long as human nature remains what it is. Mr. Ramsay MacDonald's warning before quoted, we hope, will sink deep into the minds of the earnest, sympathetic, able men who justly enjoy the confidence of the masses and are numbered among their leaders, but who at the present juncture are devoting their time and attention to the socialistic system, which cannot be established except by a steady readjustment of existing relations until the organic structure has been completely altered. To effect this change would be the work of centuries. The socialist should reflect it was under immutable law decreed that there should be evolved out of the burning mass of matter the fair earth with all its charms, out of the beast the higher organism, man with godlike powers, and that man should not eat the bread of idleness, but labor from morn till night in the noble task of making one small spot on earth, one small circle of his fellows, just a little better than he found it. A high mission, none too great, none too small to lose the privilege or to neglect the duty. Man does the latter at his peril, be he cottager or king. So long as man on earth can aid in the smallest degree the progress of his race, he should rejoice. How much fame or fortune he acquires, or how little, matters not, so long as he contributes by his labor and example to the general good. This is the true end, and should be the aim of life. Why should any man desirous of benefiting his fellows neglect the work of his own time, which it is his duty to perform, and waste his abilities upon purely speculative ideas, which it may or may not become the duty of future generations of men to adopt? Our duty of today is with today's problems. We have nothing to do with those of the distant future. It is sad indeed to see able and good men, who could aid in improving the present, expending their talents upon a new system for a distant future, of which they can know nothing. It is in this world that all our duties lie, and only our own generation can we know how to serve. Upon it our thoughts and efforts should therefore be concentrated. It is a serious waste of time to concern ourselves with any system which we know cannot be introduced until the organic relations of human society are altered. Upon the men of today, only the work of today devolves, not heaven our home, our motto, so much as home our heaven. Franklin was right when he proclaimed that the highest worship of God is service to man. Power to render service to the unknown is not given us except by serving those of his creatures here with us in our own day and generation. The man is not born who can legislate wisely for a future which has not been revealed to him, and of which therefore he can know nothing. Sufficient unto our own day are the evils thereof. These we should endeavor to abolish or mitigate, leaving the future to our successors. End of section 17. Individualism versus Socialism. Recording by Darrell Pence.